What's up, everybody? It's Quinton from Hunters of Light, and it's a Monday. Another day, another week. Still in lockdown. It's getting a little much now. But today we've got Tim Moolman, who's going to be talking to us about documentary wedding photography. We had a chat the other day, and this light bulb went on for me about the solution to a problem that I had when I was still shooting weddings, and it's possibly going to be the way that I go back to shooting weddings. So, for me, this has already been so inspirational and so worthwhile, and we haven't even had this chat yet. So that is just bloody awesome. So Tim started his photography at the age of 30, a bit of a late bloomer, while living on the Isle of Man. Within his first year, he was taught to do a wedding, school, pets, event photography, documented the Isle of Man, TT, British royal family on 4 occasions. He's also covered events as diverse as the Maloof Money Cup, 94.7 Cycle Challenge, Ultra Dance, and even skateboarded with Tony Hawk. Now, he also got a high five from Tony Hawk once he nailed the trick. So there we go. He was about that. So Tim, fantastic to have you on. I really appreciate you coming through and telling us about your work. And so, yeah, maybe let's just kick off with what you've been doing during lockdown, and are you working again, or what's the story?
No. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's a real privilege to be on this platform, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very, very much. And so lockdown, sure. No, there's no work for me. I do look. People say to me, what kind of stuff do I shoot? And I always say I shoot for cash, because I've got to make a living. I've found a passion for documentary work, and especially documentary wedding photography, but we'll talk about that in a bit. And yeah, so for me in March, the first few, when the first news of lockdowns and everything started happening, and our movement was restricted, that was pretty much it for me. All my commercial work, the events that were planned, everything just disappeared. They evaporated. And along with my nest egg, evaporated. And I had weddings. I'm very, very fortunate. For some reason, I've managed to get all my weddings to postpone.
Okay.
So I haven't lost a single one. So for me, that's a bit of a win, in that the work is still there in the future at some point. But yeah, lockdown. So no work, stuck at home. My wife is about 11 months pregnant now, and we've got a 5-year-old daughter. So yeah, just keeping busy at home. I started a series on Instagram. I started photographing what I saw around the home on lockdown. So for me, it was a nice way to keep busy and to keep my finger on the trigger, so to speak. So I'd shoot what my daughter got up to. I'd shoot what my wife was doing. The dirty laundry created a certain mess in the end of the room, or we had like 1 or 2 brides at home for the 3 of us, and our dogs running around, just little things around them. This is my story for 60 odd days of lockdown. This is what I saw, and this is what happened. And I really enjoyed that. And as soon as we had a bit of movement and we could walk around the block, that was exciting. It's like a whole new world now when you're stuck at home in your garden. You know, all of a sudden you can walk around the block. It's like, wow. It's
like an international holiday.
Exploring, yeah. It's not Kilimanjaro, but it's exciting. It's something new. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been doing through. I'm a brand ambassador for Fujifilm, and we've had a lot of takeovers, and we've been interviewing each other and doing a lot of work together, and that's really great. I went and I'm always watching YouTube videos of other photographers to learn more. I feel that's a big thing that we often overlook. Once you've been shooting for a long time, you're pretty secure in what you've been doing, and we should keep looking. So I've been watching lots of YouTube videos, finding out, discovering new photographers, and yeah, just trying my best to stay sane. I am, like you mentioned, the Tony Hawk thing. I am a skateboarder. I'm 48. I still skateboard every chance, like every week. And to be locked down and not be able to do that, even our complex doesn't allow people walking up and down. So I'm like, so it's frustrating, and it really is hectic. I can't, and I know we talk about this as the same, we're all in the same storm, but we really are in different boats. I love that analogy that I heard. We all, some people are single, some people, it's crazy. But yeah, I've tried to keep busy. I've tried to stay sane by shooting.
Yeah.
Because if you're a photographer now and you're not shooting, do you only shoot for money then? do you only shoot for like when there's something happening? Why not tell a story all the time? You've got a camera, you've got your gear, do something.
Yeah. I think it was this weekend, or might have been a couple of days before that. Everything feels like a weekend because you're kind of always in the same place. But my wife made a bit of a meal, and we thought, well, we'll make one of them look quite nice, and then I'll take some pictures of it. And for the life of me, I could not find the timer to go 2 seconds. I could not. I picked up another body because that was up on the tripod, and I couldn't work out how to do the 2-second timer. It was ridiculous, and that's obviously you if you don't use something for a while, and obviously I haven't used the timer for a while, so I couldn't find it.
And that manual is going to be in a box in the back of the cupboard in storage somewhere, so there's no way. And to go and sit at a laptop and Google it,
for sure.
No, it's crazy. But I love what you've done. It's a brilliant incentive. It's a great way to get people involved in that. The other challenge, there's the isolation challenge, which a few guys started, where they've given people a project every week to shoot at. There's so much going on that for photographers, we should stay busy.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you do realize that people are struggling. If you're alone, if it's a very, very weird time to be alive.
Yeah.
I mean, you speak to friends of photographers in other countries, and they'll tell you exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why this whole thing for me was so important to start, because the people that are sitting on their own, the people, especially the I suppose the younger photographers or the newbies, people that have just started out, that don't know that there are going to be storms to ride out. They don't know how to ride them out. At least sort of take their mind off of it and keep them inspired and motivated, because as a professional photographer, it's ups and downs, and there isn't really a season as such, unless I suppose you're looking at specifically the wedding side of things. But sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's busy, and you've got to learn to ride it out.
Yeah, it's tough. And I had a friend start who left his corporate job to start photography as a career a few years back, and I said to him, well done. Because I did the jump from IT. I came from IT and I threw in the towel. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I was very, very fortunate to get a job for the people I did in the Isle of Man. I lucked out. I can't tell you enough how fortunate I was to learn from the people I did. But I said to him, you're not a professional photographer unless you've sold a camera or a lens to pay for rent or to buy food, because that's just a struggle. That's just how it goes sometimes. And I mean, I've moved countries. I left the whole business behind in the UK when I came to South Africa to start again. And, life happens. You make mistakes. We make bad decisions, and you struggle financially. But for me to sell gear so that I can pay, it's no big deal. That lens still exists. I'll still buy that lens again. It doesn't matter. So to look at guys now, and I've seen a few people sell up gear and say, well, I'm going to get a 9-to-5 job now because photography. And it's sad, because you know what? If you've got the ability, if you've gotten this far in it to start a career and you have a brand, just hang in there, just hang in a little bit more. It's tough, but this is what we do. And it's not going to be it's not a paycheck every month, but
absolutely.
Well, not a guaranteed paycheck. It is, And then it does this as well. It's paycheck, and then it's paycheck.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Well, yeah. So I mean, I'm really excited to see your images and go through your process and that sort of thing. So I think we can kind of share your screen and go for it. And then for everyone that's watching, please remember, ask questions. I'll pass them on, and we'll just take it from there.
Okay, let's see if I've got this right now. Let's see if I can get this right. Hey, come here.
Yeah, I can see your picture there, so I'm happy.
Let's see, we go full screen. Hold on a second. Okay.
Perfect.
Happy, boss? Okay,
yep.
Cool. So I want to talk about documentary photography, and I'm going to give you a very quick 30-second background to this. I've been photographing since 2002. I was very fortunate, like I mentioned, to shoot lots of commercial work and everything. But 5 years ago, just after my daughter arrived, my wife didn't work for a year, and I burnt myself out within 6 months. I shot everything that came along for however much money you gave me, because I had to make a living, because my wife didn't have a job. And I burnt out, and I wanted to give up photography. And I went back, something made me go back and look at the work I'd done before, and to look at my especially my wedding work, because I always loved weddings. I really did. I loved, it's such an amazing occasion. Everyone's happy. Everyone's dressed up. There's usually great food. It's a wonderful occasion to be a part of. And for people to invite you in to tell that story, that's an immense privilege, I thought. So I looked at my wedding work and I realized, you know what? I was getting booked for my candid work, for my storytelling work. And when I realized that, I thought, you know what? I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to do what you've heard a million times from a million presentations. Be true to yourself. Shoot what you want to shoot. Shoot the way you want to shoot it. And the right clients will find you. And that's what started happening to me. So what I'm going to do now, it's very difficult, but I got it down to 46 images I want to talk to you about. I'm going to talk briefly about some and in depth about others. I'd love to hear questions. Questions are really fantastic. You can ask me anything you like. You can make fun of my pictures. You can tell me I cropped it wrong or something's out of focus. It's fine. But to start with documentary photography, what you have to remember is you're trying to tell a story in one image. And I heard a great quote once that I don't know who to attribute it to, but the quote was that photojournalism is about capturing verbs. And I love that because you want to tell a whole story in one image. Now, I've been talking a lot over this great image of Matt and Michelle taken in the Drakensberg. It poured with rain the whole day, and we got a bit of a dry spell as they come out of the chapel and they're throwing confetti and stuff. But this is a great image for me to start with because I haven't stepped in the way of anybody to capture this image. I haven't tried to get a clean frame of the couple coming out because you can see there's somebody on the left throwing confetti at them. Behind them, there's confetti on the ground. And to the right of the frame is somebody holding a cell phone up. And if you look at the image on the cell phone, she's taking the image at that point in time as well. And I feel that's a great story. Here's a whole story of the joy, people photographing it, people throwing confetti, everyone smiling and happy. That to me is a great documentary image. If you see that I've included the cell phone in it, I'll talk a bit more about how I feel about cell phones a bit later on. I see Quentin smiling already when I mention cell phones at a wedding.
I'll answer later. It comes up later.
So I've started off with 3 confetti images because this is often such a vibrant, exuberant part of the day. You know, the couple said, I do, yes, we're married, it's official, and it's all going crazy in that. And if you look at there are 2 ladies to the left of the frame, and the one in like the black and white, well, black and white could be any color, but now it's black and white. In the design on her dress is actually holding the groom back. She's grabbed his shoulder to pin him back to make sure that she douses him with confetti. And I thought that was so funny to do that at this point in time. This is also one of the shots, incidentally, that I made with a fisheye lens. Because I shoot skateboarding and BMXing sometimes, there's always a fisheye lens in my bag. And I think it's a brilliant, brilliant lens when used correctly. It can be overused. You can shoot from the wrong angle, but a fisheye to me right here, because I'm only about 1.5 meters, if that far, away from the couple, but it's got this whole story happening in one frame, which I love. Carrying on with the confetti theme, this is I'll speak in, I shoot Fuji, so it's an APS-C size sensor, but I'll speak in 35mm terms when I speak of a lens. So this is a 16mm Fuji, but in 35mm terms, it's a 24mm lens. It's a 24mm lens. So tilting the lens a little bit makes the image a little bit more dynamic, shooting from a slightly lower angle. But one thing you'll notice with my exposures, I want to just mention how I expose going forward now, is I shoot center weighted metering most of the time. I shoot aperture priority for about 90% of what I shoot is aperture priority. And then I do use manual every now and then. And without even knowing what chiaroscuro was, what chiaroscuro is where I think it's Italian words for black or dark and bright or black and white. I forget now that I'm running on my, So, but what it means is my blacks are crushed. My darks are dark. If there's a shadow area in the frame, then it can become shadow. It doesn't need to have detail in it. For me, my concern usually is with skin tones, with people's facial expressions. If I have that part of my frame exposed correctly, then I'm doing okay. what also helps is that you can see all the detail in the bride's dress here. So I'm not using flash. I'm not using artificial lighting. 90% of what you're going to see now is shot with whatever light was there. It'll be the indoor light at the venue or just natural light outside. So to take away from this, one frame has to tell us a story. Now, going on to the part about using available light, and I call myself an available light photographer, which means if I need to use my flash or my LEDs or my speed lights, they're in my bag. They're available.
And therefore available.
They're therefore available, yeah. I'm not going to pretend to be this, I only shoot natural light, because that to me, I worked as a photojournalist for a bit. I was trained to shoot that kind of stuff, or taught to shoot that kind of stuff. You need a speed light. You need to understand how to use artificial lighting in certain circumstances. But this image, this frame of Chris and Ashley is just so great. The candle lighting ceremony, there's more than enough light there falling on their faces to tell the story for me. So again, I've exposed for that. Now we've created a mood. Now we've created some intimacy to this. Whereas if I'd hit this with a flash, we'd have lit up the whole room. We've lit up all the people around us. But as it turned out, just the bride and groom are lit by the candle, which for me works so beautifully in this frame. I've never been afraid. I must point out as well, you'll see it in some of my frames. I've never been afraid to use high ISO. The DSLR system I used before was Canon, which I loved, and I'd push that ISO as high as the camera could go, and I still do that. I feel that it's far more important for me to get the shot, and especially considering that I don't want to use available light. I don't want to use artificial light. I have to be comfortable with using fast lenses and using high ISOs.
So that brings me to the question of your lenses. Obviously, primes are preferred because they're always going to be faster than a zoom. What are typically the apertures that you're looking at? So for something like this, for example.
So I use 3 lenses, and then so I've got 5 or so lenses in my bag. I've got equivalents. I'll speak equivalents again in 35mm. I've got the fisheye, which is about a 12mm fisheye. I've got a 135 f2, which is Fuji's 90mm. Then I've got equivalent. I've got a 24, a 35, and a 75. They're all f2 lenses. The majority of my wedding, I was looking over December, and that I shot about 8 weddings, and my most used lens was my 75mm, and right behind that was my 35mm. And then for some special shots, the 24 would come out. And yes, so everything is a prime. I have 2 bodies on me the whole time. And this is a key thing with shooting this kind of stuff. And this is why I love the mirrorless system, because it's small. It's small, and it allows me to carry 2 cameras around me, maybe a lens and a pouch on my waist. And that's me set up for the day. I don't need to have a whole backpack on. I've got a small shoulder bag if absolutely necessary with a few bits and pieces in it. But that's all. So I'm fluid. I'm mobile. I'm as far as I can be. I want to be inconspicuous as well. But now I'm leading off to something else. I speak about inconspicuous. No. But yes, so the primes are 35 and 75. And 75 is quite a unusual focal length, but Leica actually made 75s, and they brought out an amazing 75mm Noctilux f1.25 lens a year or 2 ago, which is beautiful. But yeah, so 75 is just a little bit wider than a traditional 85mm portrait lens, and for me that tells my story a little bit better. I prefer to shoot wider, obviously to tell more of the story. Yes, Chris getting ready and adjusting his bow tie, and again there was a big wall-mounted light in front of him, and by just stepping over his shoulder and then again center weight and metering on his face, he's exposed right. Everything else goes black. That's all I want to see, is that reflection and his smile, because he had his groomsmen ripping him and saying stuff, and there's always banter happening and stuff like that. So you always want to try and get the reaction of that happening. So yeah, there's that lighting again. This little girl, I love this frame, and I used this in an exhibition I had recently. And what was and people had such conflicting views about it because her eyes are wide open. Now, anybody with kids will look at this and go like, yep, overtired. You recognize it straight away. This poor kid, even though she's got her fairy wings on, she was one of the flower girls. You can see her just by her knee on the couch there's a little paper crown she had on. And this is about 9 o'clock at night. And she's like, I'm done. This is enough now. And this photo was taken at Red Ivory, which is a well-known venue just outside of Joburg. And this was the light in the room. This was, if you just meted for this little girl's face and what she was wearing, everything else goes dark because it was like she was literally under a spot on the couch. And that to me just told the whole story because there's nothing else happening around her. The back of the frame falls away into black. You can't see anybody else. And you think like this poor kid. If you don't have kids, then you're going to think like, hang on a second. But if you got kids, I recognize her straight away. That's my daughter when she's overtired.
Absolutely.
Immediately. This was Claudia. She was writing a letter to the groom on the day. This is the bride, yeah. And again, window light coming from the side. And it just gives such nice texture. And I feel like it's volume. It just gives, it's tangible. You can, and by bringing the exposure right down, you can see the creases on her fingers beautifully. Now, she's obviously not an old lady. She's a young girl. But it just shows that she had beautiful hands. And I thought, like, this is such a nice way to frame this up and tell the story of her writing this. Now, obviously, documentary means that you take that idea of a photojournalist capturing a verb, but you shoot 5 frames of it. So I've got frames of her by the window. I've got a full-length shot of her writing, and then the close-up shot, like I said, of her writing it. They unfortunately did not make the grade because I've only got so many photos I can talk about. But yes, available lighting gives beautiful texture and beautiful depth to the image like this, which I feel would have been ruined by using a flash. This is one of my favorites. So I love looking for the quirky and the silly, and I really want to shoot everything that's going on. Why must I put the camera down? And because I've got 2 small mirrorless cameras on me the whole day long, even when I sit down to eat, they're still around my neck or my shoulder. This is a brand new venue that opened up at the end of last year on Gandhi Square called Thunder Walker. And it's an old APSA, I think it's an old APSA bank building. So it's two floors and a basement. So the ground floor is where the where the ceremony is, and then that converts to the dance floor. And then upstairs is the reception area, but in the basement are all the old bank vaults, and they've got a pub down there and all these rooms. And as I was coming up the one corridor like this, the groom, who's just having the best time of his life, he's not bothered about anything. He had to go to the toilet. Doors wide open, and I came up the stairs. I'm like, I'm not missing this shot because I've got leading lines, I've got texture on the walls, I've got the pipes. It's just, I just love the moment. I think when I put it in the exhibition, my title for it was Relief or something like that, because obviously when you got to go, you got to go. But for me, I want to photograph everything. Everything is fair game.
Absolutely.
You want to maintain, as far as you can, to be fair, you want to maintain people's dignity. You don't want to belittle people or put them in an embarrassing situation. But you know what? If this is who you are on the day, then you should be photographed. I don't use color a lot in my images. I feel that when you photograph color, you photograph people's fashion, you photograph their clothes. When you photograph black and white, you photograph their souls. You photograph the character and the person. But at this point in time, it was a horrible, horrible rainy day in, I think it was January or February this year. But there's big rainstorms. Anyways, this wedding, this is another one at Red Ivory. And the videographer had them posing stuff up, and he had them walking across there and stuff like that. And I was looking at the ground going like, hang on.
This will all be like a bad memory.
No, it's okay. No,
Hold on.
documentary.
Let's put us, where are we? There we go.
You got me?
Yeah. And action.
Okay, cool. No, listen, with documentary, everything's legit. Everything's allowed. If it So I was speaking, so I don't usually set up a bride and groom for portraits on the day. If they do ask me to do it, then I happily go and shoot portraits, but we don't take more than 20 minutes because I feel that the story of the couple with their guests is the wedding day story that should be told. I know photographers, and you always hear horror stories of people who take couples away for 3 hours, and I'm not that guy. I want them to be as part of the day for as much as they can be part of the day. So the videographer was doing a story of the two of them here, and I saw the puddles on the ground. I thought, like, man, there's got to be a shot in here. So I asked them, just stop for me very quickly and just face each other so you can see their faces silhouetted. And the red umbrella, because this is taken at Red Ivory, where when it rains they give you a red umbrella. So now it gives us context. This was our wedding, Red Ivory, the red umbrella, and obviously this frame has been flipped upside down to show it the right way around. So yeah, that was my red. So speaking about color now, so you didn't hear what I said about color?
No.
So it's a fantastic. So I've got these fantastic quotes, and unfortunately, I'm not remembering where I heard them first. But the quote was, "When you photograph in color, you photograph people's clothes. When you photograph in black and white, you photograph people's souls." You see the expressions in that. But this Hindu wedding, it's a Hindu wedding, and the beautiful colors everywhere. You've got to shoot some of it in color. It's the way to tell the story. And if I can, just very quickly, I'm going to go on a tangent. This was one of the moments when, as a documentary photographer, I realized something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Now, as a documentary photographer, the three guys who got me thinking along these lines, the three photographers, it's Kevin Mullins in the UK, Joe Busink in America, and Jeff Askoff. They were all amazing documentary photographers, wedding documentary photographers, who got me thinking a certain way. And what Joe Busink said is when he got asked to document weddings, he realized he didn't want to be dragged away to go and do bride and groom portraits when there are 200 guests and kids and old people laughing and joking and milling about. There's so much happening there you'd want to photograph. So what he did was he started getting another photographer to come in and shoot his portraits for him. So at this Hindu wedding, that's what I did. I was there as the documentary photographer. The couple didn't even tell the family that I was the photographer. I hired a wonderful portrait photographer, a wedding photographer, to come in and do all the formal portraits for me so that I was left free to roam and shoot like this. And it was the best experience ever. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. That's my tangent. For the pros who are thinking about how you can wriggle it together, if there are a lot of portraits to be done, I would much rather get somebody else to come in and do that and leave me to do what I've been practicing to do.
I think it's a fantastic idea or way to approach it. And this was one of the things that when we spoke the other day that really struck a chord for me. I mean, I love shooting the moments and that sort of thing, but I suppose that the one thing that prevented me from doing that was the fact that I wanted a specific kind of lighting and there was something specific that I wanted to get, but it was almost like there were two different directions. And if you stop the one, then it opens up another door, but there's other things that need to be done as well. And the fact that you hire someone to come in and shoot those groups and formals so that you don't have to, you can focus on the moments. For me, I think was just such an eye opener, and it's opened a door that we'll see if I go through it, but it's just wow. So the tangent,
and I wish I could claim it was my brilliant idea, but it wasn't. But it worked. So I tested it and it worked. And what I loved was that, and this was such a boost for me because the couple saw the value of what I was doing. And they said, we don't want you to be interfered with. You just do what you're doing and tell our story. And then the other guy will photograph the formal stuff. And it just worked so well. You can imagine the coverage that the couple got. The couple got They got over 2,000 beautiful images, not rushed images, not, oh, I'll just throw these in to build up numbers. They got about 2,000 great images, and absolutely a wonderful way to go forward with it. So talking about the color in my images, this was one from that wedding where 300 guests were milling about, and I just saw these three, and it was almost like they were mannequins out of a fashion ad. And I thought, this is so strange. They're not talking to each other. They're just standing there for this moment in time. And I thought this was such an interesting frame just to grab in the middle of all this pandemonium that was happening at the wedding. Because if you could see what was happening behind me, it was crazy. But in front of me, and I just thought this was a beautiful frame, had to be captured in color. Another one of the Hindu wedding. So you'll see I'm shooting through the crowd here. Now, my aim on the wedding day is to kind of make friends with everybody as quickly as possible and put everybody at ease so that they can then forget about me. They must forget about me, and I want to stand in among the guests like this to tell the story, because that's a documentary story. That's the story being told from a guest's perspective. Now, I found the way that I do this is I try and dress like a guest. So as far as I can, and in muted colors, I will dress just to blend in, and just to blend, just to blend in, and then kind of fall in love a little bit with everybody on the day. Try and understand that this uncle is known for the big laugh, and that guy is always going to be a little bit quiet, and this lady has got a loud laugh, or there's the joke teller, or there's this person. Try and understand that when the couple looks back at these photos and they look at someone's expression, they're going to go, yeah, that's Uncle so-and-so. That's just typical him. Or that's my aunt. That's just typical her. So when you walk in on the day, you have to think, listen, I'm part of this wedding in such a big way. You've got to tell the story. And you have to invest yourself in that way. And I find that coming back from shooting weddings like this now, I am far more exhausted than when I used to shoot weddings in a more conventional way, because I literally will not stop looking. And instead of watching somebody tell a joke and laughing at the joke, I've got to have the camera up on my face. I've got to be like, the whole day, I brought my prop with so I can show you. The whole day, I've got to be walking around like, and then this is what I love about a rangefinder as well, is you can still see my face while I'm shooting. So I can look and smile and shoot. And so it's like, I'm still interacting. I'm part of it. I don't have this big DSLR with a big flash you have to be scared of. I'm behind this small little black box, and it's such a nice, it just changed my approach for me. I just love the fact. So that's where I want to be. I want to be part of the gang, fit in with everybody, and then be forgotten about. That's Tim. Yeah, he takes photos. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think the sooner you can become a fly on the wall, the better the pictures are going to be, because people are not looking to you for a reaction, or when they're doing something, looking to you so that you can get that thing. And it's I love the way that you also saying investing yourself in the guests, but you spend enough time to see who the characters are, and then get them at their peak. I think it's fantastic.
It's the way you want to be, and it just takes a lot of focus. You've got to look. Like I say, I still YouTube photographers every week to see how they think and how they approach things to get certain images. Excuse me. But absolutely, this is the way you tell that story. You become one of them, and then they must forget about you. They must just accept you as one of the gang, and then off you go. What I also like is, so the next shot is, so just to come back to that cell phone thing I mentioned earlier on, cell phones do not bother me at all at weddings, at all. If the couple allows cell phones at a wedding, it's fine by me. I must make it part of the story. So if you look at the bottom left of this frame, you can kind of make out someone's lifting a cell phone up, and the next frame is there. And I thought it's part of the story. It's somebody, maybe they'll recognize the person's hands watch, if the person had rings on it, who it was holding it. But that to me tells part of the story. And why try and exclude that?
Absolutely. That's perfect.
I want to add it in. this one was I loved this one because he had his screen set to like brightness 5,000. So again, that center weighted metering, almost a spot meter to match the screen, the whole room went dark. And I thought, like, that's beautiful because you can see his profile on the left there against the windows, and you can kind of make out the bride's dress to the right of the frame, but the cell phone has it nice and clear for you.
Love it.
And I thought, like, that's just so this is like, for me, it's become a game now. It's how many cell phone pictures can I add in along the way, because they're everywhere. They're at every single wedding. And I've seen photographers write long blog posts and can't believe that these people had cell phones and they stuck a cell phone in front of me. It's like, you know what, guys, there's so many ways around it. I didn't have to step to your right or step to your left and the cell phone is not in your frame. But if the couple allows it, then
absolutely. So I've got two questions. Johan Grelen wants to know, do you set up your camera and shoot monochrome, or do you just shoot color or shoot raw and then convert later?
So in the past, I shoot raw and JPEG. For the reason that I'll show you now, because I actually print some images out on the day. So if I have a JPEG image, I can print the JPEG image out straight away on the day for the couple. And then I come home and I put them into Lightroom. And Lightroom, so Fujifilm is known for its film simulations. It does Acros and Velvia and Astia, and there's a new Provia one, I think, or Superior one. So it actually does film simulations in camera. And then I apply one of those to my workflow, and then it just fires the whole lot through. So on the day, the mirrorless cameras have an EVF. The one I use, I don't want to make this about a brand thing, but it's got an optical and an electronic viewfinder. So I can switch between the two while I'm shooting. But when I switch to electronic viewfinder, it shows me my image in black and white. So I know exactly what my exposure is going to look like. And yes, it is a lot like cheating. But if it helps me get the shot, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
So yes, so to Jan, raw files into Lightroom, and then I just batch process the whole lot to my black and white setting. However, the newer Fujis have just released an ability to tone your black and whites to make them a slight monochrome image. And you'll see some of my shots coming a bit later on through this. You'll see there's a bit of a tone to them. And that's enabling me to shoot JPEG straight from camera now. So if my exposure is accurate and I've framed it right and I've got the image right in camera, there's no processing involved. I'll say it again. There's no processing involved. When shooting live events, I would set a color profile on my camera, and say I would do a live music event. I would shoot on Astia, the Astia film simulation, which is a beautiful color film simulation. And then I would send the photos to my phone, and then I would WhatsApp them to my client, and my client would put them on WhatsApp or Instagram, on Facebook or Instagram, or whatever social media feed they want to. And that turnaround time got me thinking. So that quick turnaround time with an event got me thinking, but why can't I do that with the wedding? And as soon as these monochrome tinting features came out with the new updates, I was like, I'm in. So now my aim is to shoot it JPEG for as much as I can. Then the raw files I will then use to convert for color images. But to use a JPEG straight from camera, it's such a weird place to be, because almost 20 years ago, that's how we shot film. You shoot your film, you take it to the lab, you dump it in, there's your film back. Hey, so then we got so lost in photoshopping and having to edit stuff, and I've got to convert from raw, and JPEG is not good enough. But actually, with most camera manufacturers now, JPEGs are great. Of course, especially with the Fuji system, because I'm an ambassador. So, but JPEGs are so good. If you nail your exposure in camera, why would you want to go and spend all that time sitting in front of a computer editing? I hate that part of work. I'm not somebody I can't do composites and all that drama. It's just, for me, I invest my time into getting the photo, making the photograph at the right time, at the right moment, and exposing it correctly.
Cool. No, I mean, it saves a lot of time, because otherwise you're going, through a whole lot of raw files, and you're going, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then once you've done that, then you're going to go and process all of them. You spend some people spend a hell of a lot longer
Yeah.
than they should. But if you don't need to, if the look and the quality that you want is in that JPEG, then perfect.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely. I mean, I shot this December just passed through from the 30th of November to the end of December. It just went crazy for me, and I did 8 weddings, and I had them all processed and delivered by the 3rd week of January or the middle of January, because when you're shooting accurately, there's not much you need to do. So a wedding takes me now 2, maybe 3 mornings to edit, and I'm through and I'm done, and it's out the door. And it was so nice to have this busy December and come out of it and go like, look, hey, I'm all done. Processing's done, delivered to client. Client's like going, what do you mean my photos are ready?
yeah,
Because their friend took 3 months or 4 months or whatever.
I've never understood that.
I hear these horror stories, and
yeah, I mean, you get back, you process them. So at the end of Monday, you've got, pretty much everything done. Maybe a bit of Tuesday morning, and it's done. And then, like you say, you hear the horror stories of 3 months, 6 months, and I just say I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. I think one thing that helped me a lot is when I lived in the UK, we had a very short wedding season. Because you're in the UK where it's cold and dark. But on the busiest years, if I did 30 weddings, I would do 30 weddings in a few months. And it happened to me that I would do a Friday wedding, a Saturday wedding, and a Sunday wedding. And then the following weekend, I have another wedding. And if I don't get on top of these 3, the next thing is I'm 5 or 6 weddings behind shooting another one. And then when you go to edit the first one, you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
What was I thinking with this one? How did I want to do this again? And no, rather get it out quickly, and that's how I feel it should be.
Absolutely.
Super. So that's my cell phone story. I've got loads of cell phone pictures I could show you, but that's just to make the point about that. So artificial light. I do use speed lights. I use little Litra torches as well. Little Litra torches are little LEDs, which are super, super bright. The Litras, a lot of people compare them to lume cubes. And I think Litras are a slightly warmer light and a slightly broader spread of light than a lume cube. But yeah, so I've got a couple of those in my bag. I can put filters on them if I want to. But this one was actually just shot with a speed light on camera and a bit of drag shutter. So a very slow shutter speed, maybe a 15th of a second. And what that does, you can see the lights are moving a bit in the background on the dance floor. And this girl walked past, beautiful blonde girl, smoke, and she puffed the smoke. And I thought, like, wow, this is my Studio 54 photo. If I have one photo that I could say, this always reminds me of something completely different that I wasn't a part of. The whole, obviously, Studio 54 was in America and quite a while back. But yeah, this was my artificial lighting. And then again, that same technique, that drag shutter. This is from a more recent wedding. So the trick here is you put your flash onto second curtain, and you don't need a very high ISO. Your shutter speed's about a 10th or a 15th. And every now and then, just give it a bit of a spin, and it makes it so dynamic. This lady on the dance floor was incredible. She was dancing up a storm for the whole evening. And I thought, like, this is make it more dynamic to like make it something exciting. Because like I said, I don't want to Photoshop something afterwards. So let me just do something in camera to make it look different. Yeah, so some drag shutter there. So that's artificial lighting when it's necessary. This Scotty, so this brings me to being part of the family, understanding who you're part of, who the family is, who the characters in the family are. And they had 2 very old Scotties. And when I saw how the bride reacted to the dogs, I realized, listen, I've got to watch these dogs. They're going to do something today, and I've got to make sure I tell a story with them. And here he is inspecting shoes by the dress. You'll also notice, I think this is the only portrait image I have in my whole selection because I feel stories work better in landscape. But yeah, so here's a Scotty in this. So what happened on the day was I watched these dogs in between everything else that's going on. And I think I ended up with about 7 or 8 shots that I gave to the bride, which she absolutely adores because these are the dogs that she grew up with. They're very old now, and you could just tell they're part of the family. This is part of our gang. And if people feel that way about their pets, I remember a girl in the UK had a pet rat, and she, which is crazy. I've got photos of a bride with her pet rat. But you know, if that's your vibe, it's cool. You shoot it. But yes, so always look around and take in what's happening around you to tell the story of the day. This is one of my favorites. This was a moment just after the confetti that's been thrown at the church. It was at a big church in Pretoria. They had huge grounds. So they actually it was a day wedding, and they had the first part of the reception in the church grounds, and afterwards they went to a family member's house for a smaller late lunch. But this moment, the way she's looking up at him, it's just too beautiful. And this, for me, when people say to me, why don't I shoot more color? If I had to show you this image in color, with the color of his suit, tie, shirt, and how it would clash with her dress, we would lose that moment of emotion. You would lose the character in her face and the love and adoration that they have for each other. It's just too beautiful, and color would have taken away from that.
I think that's the thing that I really enjoy about the black and white, is that you strip away the color, you strip away all the distractions, and then all you have is the emotions. And for me, that's what makes it really, really special.
Absolutely. And also, you know, just think about if I've been using the flash at all these times, how more noticeable you would be. The beauty of all these mirrorless systems which are now available is that they're quiet. If you put on electronic shutter, there's no noise. So there's no flash going off. There's no click, click, click when you're taking a picture. It's gorgeous. It's just, I think mirrorless is the future. No matter which brand you're using, I think mirrorless is the future. That's quite diplomatic of me, isn't it?
It's very.
but it is.
No, absolutely. I mean,
what those systems are doing now, they're smaller, they're more compact.
Yeah, I mean, I've switched from from DSLR to mirrorless, and for a number of reasons. But it's definitely the way forward. There's no two ways about it.
Absolutely. The fact that you've got a shutter speed that goes up to a 32,000th of a second now or something. You can shoot broad daylight at f1.8, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a great one. This is the same wedding as the shot before, and the bride put her arm around the groom, and he just reached back to touch her hand like that. And I love this little bit of emotion. It's such a subtle thing. It happens so quickly, but this just shows the connection that this couple has together. They're not aloof. They're not distant. They're affectionate in the smallest ways. And these are, again, little moments you're looking to tell. If you look again, I know I carry on about this, but using an artificial light here would have ruined it. But look at all the curves in his jacket, the flow. There's depth and volume to it. I love all of that, but I love the moment. The moment is what we're after. This was at a wedding at the end of last year, being congratulated by a grandmother. Now, the thing is to keep shooting. So I never shoot burst. Bursts just waste space. I can hit the button quickly enough to go click, 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 and that's all I would need. So in this one, it was a wider shot of the congratulations, which I've got between bride and her family member. I think it's grandmother. I've got them smiling, congratulations, you look beautiful, my dear, all that's happening. But these two hands and the composition of the little V that they made like this, I thought, just to show youth and age or innocence and experience or whatever you would like, that was a nice contrast for me and a nice story I wanted to tell. There's just genuine affection there, the way they're touching each other. And you know what? All the images we have of people doing this now, what are the weddings going to look like when we go back to weddings?
Yeah.
It's the craziest thought. I was posting on my one Instagram feed. I was posting recent weddings and I was doing throwbacks, and everyone's hugging and embracing and it's just so beautiful. And we'll have to see what it looks like. But this kind of touch to me is beautiful. It's affectionate and it's sincere. What I loved about this one, I love photographing kids. I love kids so much, we've made our own. We've got one in the way. So because kids don't lie, they're sincere. They just are transparent. What you see on their faces, that's how they're feeling at that point in time. and this little girl looked almost a little bit nervous. The makeup artist was fantastic, but she had brightly colored hair. She's got tattoos all the way to her fingers. So I don't know how this child, what she was thinking when this makeup artist was there. But the makeup artist was very friendly. She was fantastic, but just a little bit of innocence here next to this tattooed lady was a bit of a contrast for me, which I quite liked. And the expression on her face, which is calm, it's serene, but there's a little bit of like, what's she doing to me now? Maybe it's the first time she's having makeup put on. You don't know. And yeah, I quite liked it. I thought that was quite a nice image like that.
Is this one of those images that has that tint to them that you mentioned?
Yes. So yeah, sorry. Yes. Very, yeah. You can see I'm blending my portfolio here, but this is, yes, this is a bit of a tint to it. Not too much. We don't want to make it sepia. We just want to add a little bit of, I think there's a little bit of magenta that I added to this, just to warm it slightly.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool.
Now it's not black and white, right? Now it's monochrome.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, we go back to black and white. But this, I love this. This is another Hindu wedding that I was shooting at. And rainy day, we're waiting for the rain to calm down a bit so the bride can get out the car. And this is aunt and uncle, I think it was, coming to give her updates. But the fact that the door was open and there was a reflection there, or the possibility of a reflection, I was like, man, someone's going to step into that frame and there's going to be a shot there. So let's see if I can tell the story. And by pure fluke, the lady stepped in as well, just to fill the right to the frame. Like, and I thought, like, yeah, it's a great, this is the busyness. These are the people surrounding the bride. You can see the rain on the car. And I thought that was quite a nice composition to use it just like that. These two girls, this is another idea of giving context to your image. So I could have used a longer lens and framed just the two girls up doing their makeup, but there was a TV to the side of the room, and there were, I think there were 5 young kids at this wedding getting ready with the bride, where the bride was getting ready, and the bride and the bridesmaids that were getting ready. There were 5 kids there. So the first thing that the bride did obviously is put the TV on to distract them. And his expression on the left there is that they had most of the day watching TV. So again, I know that when the couple looks at this, they're going to go like, oh, look how cute they are. They were watching TV the whole day. They're going to know straight away. And for them, it's going to make sense. So remember, you're telling their story. You want their story. They'll understand the context. They'll understand by looking at his face. Yeah, they couldn't tear themselves away from the TV. Because once they're into a program and you tell them, listen, you got to go downstairs for the wedding now, they're going to be like, no, it's not finished yet. Watching my program.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is, there was a lovely relationship between the bride and her father. And when he opened the door for her, I wanted to kind of frame this up in some way that I could sort of just show the intimacy or the connection that they had. And as he opened the door there, you can see her stepping up, lovely. And if you zoom into this image, you'll actually notice that I missed focus slightly, and I focused on her hair as opposed to her eye. But as with most of my images, I don't care as long as the story is being told. I'm not a fashion photographer. I don't do glamour work. I don't have to have a precise shot every single time. As long as the story is told in it, as long as you can see she's got a beautiful expression on her face. You can see her father's, if you look closely, her father's eyes are furrowed a little bit. He's concerned now, you're going to get out the car safely, because this was in the bush. So she's getting out onto the sand. Yeah, you want to frame it up. You want to tell a story like that. So nice and close. And again, a brighter light. There might have been a reflection in the glass if I'd used the artificial light. This is from St. Gita's wedding again. I just love the fact that the whole room looked so, I mean, the mirrors have got all that detail on their frames. This was at Memoir. Got beautiful big rooms there to get ready, very classic furniture.
It's a fantastic room with all the mirrors in that one.
Yes. So you're trying to dodge the mirrors, but you're trying to get stuff in the mirrors at the same time. And that's always the trick. Well, if you shoot this kind of stuff, you got to no, there I am. Oh, there's that bald guy in the frame again.
It's a love-hate relationship with the mirrors.
Yeah,
You love them, but you hate them because you're pretty
because
much in them.
but if it works,
Yeah, for
you're
sure.
like,
For sure.
man, this is so good, because you can't. Yeah. But yeah, so this was just a nice frame. The videographer was standing outside, you see. So the videographer's got her posing for him. And she's just stood so nice and proud, and her dress looks gorgeous. You can see how slim she is, and it fits nicely, and it just looks so good, that frame. So I took that photo. You can see the mess on the couch there, the shoe boxes and coat hangers. But I'll talk more about that kind of stuff in a bit. So always looking for moments like this. And again, it's me shooting through the crowd. A longer lens would have isolated the couple, and that's fine, but I want to show everyone around them. I want to show the environment that they're in. And this took a bit of waiting because the speeches were happening now, of course, and I forget what's being said at this point, but it's obviously, it was something intimate or quirky to the both of them for her to lean into her husband like that. And yeah, I quite like that frame. Again, with my shooting in really tight in that, I don't mind the fact that the guy on the left is cropped out. You can still see the expression on his face is a smile. You look at the groom getting congratulated here and how he's smiling. And then just to the left of the frame, you can see the bride, and she's getting congratulated by somebody as well. And that's a nice way to stack and layer the image throughout. One thing I've realized that I've had to learn, I mean, my documentary photography now, I feel like I've just taken the first few steps in learning how to do this, because the more I look into it and the more I learn, the more excited I get. But then again, I realize how much further I have still to go. It's an amazing field that it's going to be a continuous, there's not going to be a day that I get to it and I go like, right, I've got this, I've nailed it, because it's a process, and that's made my photography so much more exciting now. I found something that's like, man, I'm learning again, and I'm trying new stuff, and it's exciting. So I saw, what I've realized is a good documentary photograph is sometimes like a good landscape photograph. There's a foreground, a middle ground, and something in the distance, or a background and a contextual context to it. So here's our foreground, the groom getting congratulated, and the middle ground then is the bride in that. And if you see the whole frame, you can see in the background there's a big organ. So this particular church is one of those churches that still has a huge big organ in the background, and there's our context. So great documentary photography is layering things up like this. It's not necessarily just grabbing a snapshot of the groom getting congratulated. It's trying to angle in such a way that you at least tell a little bit of what's happening around him and layer the image up like that. How those questions looking? We're still okay?
Yeah, I think I'm asking all of them.
Am I tasked? Maybe I'm talking so much that maybe, yeah. So here's a frame, makeup artist, and I just saw these curlers, and I thought like maybe there's an angle I can just pick through one of the curlers and get a shot like that. I love photographing everything that happens around a wedding, obviously, but the makeup artist as well. And I used an example at a recent workshop where I showed somebody, well, this is the makeup artist's story on the day. So I could show in about 15 frames, here's a makeup artist arriving and packing their bags, laying out their makeup and their pencils and their lipsticks and whatever else. And yeah, they are working and smiling and laughing, and you can tell a whole story like that. So I feel that if you've told the story of the whole day, every character that was of some importance or was noticeable should feature in the story. They should be there as part of it. Even though the makeup artists are only there for a few hours and only in the morning, they still form a huge part of the day. And this is just one frame of them. But like I said, I've got about 15 frames of the hairstylist and the makeup artist on this day to show their entire story as well, to document it like that.
I really like the idea or the thought of the different characters in the story. I haven't really seen it like that before or understood it like that before, but it makes a lot of sense. You know, you've got obviously the couple are the main characters, but then the supporting cast, makeup artists, etc.
That's a great way to think of it. And that's the thing, is like to walk away from it. I mean, those Scotties you saw earlier, I got 7 or 8 shots of the dogs, but that's the character in the story. And it's like you're making a movie. You know, when I walk into a room, for example, I usually start off with my widest lens and go, boom, there's our scene. Set the scene, then narrow it into characters, and then narrow it into what they're doing. And like those, mostly my 35 and my 75, but that's where the 24 comes in. 24 is my establishing shot. And then let's take the 35 and the 75 and go to work and find bits and pieces and details in that.
Very cool. So I've got Larissa Kemp's got a question. On average, how many images does your client receive per wedding?
Larissa. So on my packages, I just say you get what I shoot. If it's a small wedding, small crowd of people, you get less. Big wedding, you'll get more. Over all of December, I know I worked this out. So those 8 weddings got between 600 or 700 photos was the minimum, and then the maximum was 1,100. So shooting documentary, I don't say you get 250 edited images and then I'll give you the rest and I'll upsell. And I know that's how you should do the business for some people, and that's not, I know how you make more money from the couple and all of that. I've heard that, but I can't work like that. I'm there to shoot the story. Every image I take is part of the story, and it goes in. And it's never ever photos to make up the numbers. It's every photo, everyone, you know, it's not like a group shot where someone's blinking. For example, every shot counts. Every shot counts and tells part of the story. And for me to limit myself in any way, and so I can't say to people, you get a minimum of so many photos. If you've got 10 people at your wedding, you're not going to get 500 pictures.
Yeah. And if the wedding if the wedding is 3 hours, even if they got 1,000 people there, you're not going to get 5,000 images. You know, it's just it depends on how long you're there.
Well, you can put it on burst and go mad, but it's not going to be. It's not going to be good. It's not going to tell the story.
Yeah, that's not the point. I mean, for me, it was a case of you know, I'm going to shoot. There's no sort of max that I'm going to shoot to. But then when I'm editing them, if there's 2 or 3, if they're different enough, then they'll be in. But if they're fairly similar, I'm going to choose the best one. You know, I'm not necessarily going to give you all 3 because they're very similar, but that one's awesome. So I'm going to keep that one, you know?
Absolutely. And that just made me think of something else. I've learned something from watching street photographers, and it's a skill that I'm not very good at, and I practice a lot now. But when I see something happen, as I'm lifting the camera up I'll shoot a frame as I'm going up. I'll go click and then click. Because by the time I get it to my eye, I might have missed it. So I tend to always have one camera in my hand, either my wide or my medium telephoto. And if I have to switch to the other one, I'll pick, as I'm picking, I'll go click, click, and like this. Because that first shot, it's happened before that it's worked, and that's been the moment. And then I have to crop it slightly because it's pretty skew. I told you that's still something I work on. But yeah, you have to, so I've always got one, and I'll shoot. If I see, I'll go, wow, shoot, and then shoot. Because for me, the moment from here to there, I might have missed, it might be that quick that I've missed it. But yes, and then always, it's easy to go, oh, I want another one. Like this one of him looking through the curly here to get his eye right. That wasn't one shot. You know that wasn't one shot. I took 4 or 5, maybe 6 shots going, oh man, almost got him. Man, come back this side. Almost, there it is. Okay, now I've got it. But maybe I can do better. So I've got time. Nothing else is happening. I'll try and get a few more shots and try and get a bit better. Again, detail and that chiaroscuro thing I mentioned in the very beginning, the details and the shadows in the background, it doesn't matter. We're not focusing on that. We're focusing on hands, on the jewelry, and what's happening here. And again, the beautiful window light coming in that is so nicely. There was a whole selection of this whole scene, because then they put the wrong bracelet on the wrong arm, and the one bridesmaid had to come in and almost bite it off to get it to come off, and that works so well. This is the widest shot of Sangeeta's wedding that I showed you earlier. I showed you a color image earlier where Sangeeta's in the room getting ready there, and they were shot with a longer lens. And then I heard all this commotion in front of me and literally dropped the one camera and picked the other one up and got these 2 coming in from the side. And they were so loud. These 2 characters were so loud the whole day. and boisterous and bouncing around. And this at this wedding, I think the bride went through 3 or 4 outfit changes, because there was they had a Christian ceremony, then a Hindu ceremony, and then they had the party at night, and she changed for everyone. And while that could become a bit much for certain guests or certain people of your wedding entourage, of your wedding party, these two were just having so much fun the whole time. So for me, as serious as the bride looks in the background going like, okay, I'll just stand here while you wrap me up in clothes, there was fun and excitement happening in front of her. So again, cool. And they're not in focus, the bride's in focus, but you can see the expressions on their faces, and that's good enough for me. You know, just what I think about it, how many photographs do we have from our childhood which are perfectly framed and perfectly in focus? But when we look at that image, it takes us back to that moment in time. It takes us back and, oh, I remember just after this, we were on the beach and then we got ice cream, and then look how young you were, look how much hair you had. Or it doesn't have to be in focus. Our memory fills in the rest for us. Our memory takes us back to that place. We just have to give our memory something to feed off, something to link off, and then it'll take us down that road. So this image for the bride, looking at this, we're going, yeah, I remember how much noise you guys were making outside my room. And remember how long that outfit took, because we had to get me out of this outfit and then get me into this one. And yeah.
For sure.
Again, I just love this image because they've made such a shell of umbrellas around her. Yeah. Pouring with rain on this day. Absolutely pouring. And that's something else if you think like a documentary photographer or like a photojournalist, it doesn't matter what anything else is doing. You're shooting photos. I mean, I've got so many shots. I think from this wedding where there's a bit of blur on this side of the lens or a bit of blur on that side where raindrops hit my lens. And the photos are in the collection. I've sent them to them. It's like, yeah, of course. You know it's raining on your wedding day, right? You do remember that. And so obviously you clean your lens as you go. But if the shot's there and there's rain, you just have to include it. To me, it just adds to that's your story. That's your day. Why would I want to pretend it's something else? Absolutely. Like, you know, I'm sure it's like you get those people who they're getting married on a dam, near a dam in the Free State, and they're like, they'll show you a photograph of the beach. I'd like this photograph. I'll get a table view with the mountain. I want a shot like this. Okay, I know the mountain is there. Can you get the shot? It's like, lady, you're in a dam in the middle. You're not going to get that shot. We can still do something amazing, but you're not going to get that shot. So with my documentary photography, I found my client base that I have through this are people who are, I don't want to diss anybody now, but they're just sincere. They want me there to tell their story. They're getting married no matter what. They're going to have this beautiful day no matter what. And they just want their story told. They know how they want their story told. They don't want to pretend to be something else. And while I understand that kind of wedding photography where you want to be posed up, you feel like a princess for a day, I get it. But it's not what this photography is about. This photography is, these photos are uncontrived. They're sincere. They're not posed. This is the reality. This is your real story. It's authentic. It's authentic.
Absolutely. And I think there's, that's obviously different people want to tell different stories, or possibly have gone down the path of thinking this is the way that it has to be done. And that's also something that I suppose you need to reassess from time to time.
Yeah. No, you're right with that. A lot of people feel this is how we should be at a wedding because this is all the wedding photos I've ever seen before. And this documentary approach for about the last 2 years has grown immensely in Europe. The UK and Europe, you'll find a lot of documentary photographers with this style. Whereas in certain parts of the world, it hasn't picked off yet because people still feel, I know a lot of the American market as well feels wedding photos need to look like this. And I only need to find 15 couples a year who think differently, and I'm happy. And this is a couple, it's Kate and Matt, and this is also at that Thunderwalker venue. This is lit with one of my little Litra torches, incidentally. Excuse me, I've got a little Litra torch in my hand lighting them. But again, first dance, They had the most elaborate first dance told. This was right at the end where he's spinning her around and they're like going, ta-da, we did it. How do you guys like them apples, sort of thing, you know, to all their friends who were going like, what are you going to do for your first dance? And these two are like, just you wait and see. They didn't tell me what they were going to do. They just said the dance is at this time. And I'm like, cool, I'll be ready for you. And it started off quite nice. There were nice images of them close together as a couple staring into each other's eyes. And then they broke out into this. And at this point, I'm like, right, the lens has got to be wide. And I want to show everything that's happening around them. Let's show everyone, the guests' faces, everyone's smiling behind them. Everyone's enjoying themselves. There are a few cell phones up recording, obviously.
Yeah.
But that to me is the whole, and look at his face. He's like, yeah, yes, we didn't drop her, spun her around. She's going, it was fantastic. It was one of the most amazing first dances I've seen. They were tremendous, these two. Again, this image, incidentally, is shot at the highest native ISO on my camera, which is 12,800. There's a little bit of blur in his face. I don't care. The image works. The story is there. The story is intact. You can see the fuzz and the noise in the background a bit there, but it's just gorgeous to me. I love it.
Absolutely. So Tim, I don't know how many more slides you've got.
Right at the end.
Okay, cool. That's fine then. Yeah, because I don't think that will be cut off, but just in case you've got another 407.
No, I said 46.
Oh, 46. I thought it was 406. No, I'm joking.
No. So there are two images I want to talk about a lot at the end, so I'll rush through. So this
that's cool. Don't rush. That's right. Just bear in mind.
Okay, big rainy day. Look at the expressions there. They're happy. They're smiling. These are my couples. These are the people who get me to photograph their days. The ones this day poured with rain, and many a bride would be very distraught and upset and unhappy. And Ashley over here was happy to go down to the bottom of the garden and take a few photos with the bridesmaids and then come back inside, happy and smiling. You can see her bridesmaid, one of the groomsmen's helping her out here. This photo I love because normally we focus everything on the bride on the day. We focus so much on the bride. And yeah, it's that idea where blacks can be crushed. Look at his face. He's looking up at the confetti pouring down at him. He's so exuberant and joyful. I love that image. It could have been shot tighter, perhaps. However, we wouldn't have got this whole atmosphere, the confetti raining down, the whole vibe. And you can see how narrow they packed this place out, how narrow that little corridor he has to walk down there in between the chairs. But it was just, I absolutely love. There's the joy and happiness. And to see a groom react like that. You don't often see groomsmen, like, bouncing around like that, but that was just tremendous. I loved it.
Very cool.
I mentioned before that I print out images on the wedding day, and Fujifilm's got a cute little system where I can print out Polaroid images, and I feed them to the couple through the whole day. And by the end of the day, I've got 30 or 40 images that I give to them. But it allows me to take images like this, and it's always amazing to see how excited they get when they go, oh, look at this. When did this happen? And it's happened 10 minutes ago. And now they're looking at it going like, this is so cool. This is so cool. This is so cool. And it's now they've already paid for you to be there. So they've got confidence in you that you're going to deliver. But this is just such a wonderful boost to give them those images and they see them and they're like, man, look how good my wedding day looks. And look how good everyone, yeah. And again, not just give them the images, but photograph them getting them.
Yeah.
Tell the story.
It's all about the layers, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. This is like my little character study. Yeah, it's like, monkey drink and monkey text and monkey talk or something. But it's just so quirky. And I know that when the couple looks at this, they'll go like, yeah, so-and-so was probably calling this one and she's texting again on her phone and she's going to say something about somebody. But it's just such a nice little character study of these three ladies sitting like this, busy on their phones, not talking to each other, because we don't do that anymore. We're on our phones the whole time, even at a wedding. And yeah, there was just that little quirkiness I thought was made a cool shot. Every little funny image. Now, you can time that brush to get it on her cheek. You can time that brush to get it back in the air over here, but it's so much funnier when it's on her nose. We've got the other shots, but this is the one. This is the funny one because she's got a great smile, a great laugh there. Again, shooting through. I try and frame the image to have people on either side of it, if possible, to show that I'm a guest, to give the idea or to convey the idea that I'm a guest there as well. It's not a posed setup frame.
I think the nice thing about, especially using a wider lens, and you were saying earlier on that I think yours was about 75 or somewhere there where the majority of your shots are.
Yeah.
I once did an exercise and found that mine was about a 28, somewhere there, where it was the majority of my shots at a wedding. And I think the why I liked it and why I like the pictures that came out of that focal length is because it feels like you're part of the wedding. There's an intimacy that you have because you're right there. And it's for me, I just loved it. It's just the focal length that worked.
Absolutely. 28's great. Anything from 24 to 35, they're great. It's like, and it's like you have to be close enough. And again, this is where you have to be a guest. These people have to accept you and forget about you. Like, yeah, okay, Tim, fine. And, you just carry on. And like, yeah, you can't see the bride's face, but she's smiling. She's laughing because the other two are laughing and smiling at her. And it's balancing these kind of frames. Little flower girl to the right there is maybe puzzled at the joke. Maybe, I don't know what the joke was.
That's above her pay grade.
Yeah, it must be, hey. But just these kind of moments to capture. And then a few minutes later, it's like, listen, honey, I need you to behave for like 15 minutes and you can go mad. Stay clean. Keep your hair, keep it in your hair, please. And it was just such a beautiful moment between the two of them to just jump down and grab. This one of Kate, I was talking to her, telling jokes and that, and she burst out laughing. And as she looked down, the camera's always kind of somewhere. Yeah. And it was like, bang, and got it. And I thought she looked so glamorous in this image. I loved that one. There were other images of her looking into camera and that, but to me, those aren't as telling as this one. This is a beautiful documentary image, how happy she is on the day, calm, relaxed. These ladies were tremendous. They were so
funny,
and they didn't stop for like the 5 or 10 minutes, literally 5 minutes at least that I was talking to them, joking. And every time I picked the camera up, there'd be a comment. So eventually I was holding the camera like over here. So I've pre-focused, I've got my frame. I'm like, yeah. But what about this one? And what about that one? And I'm going click, click, click. And they don't know that I'm photographing them. But it's just these beautiful, joyful reactions. And you're not looking at pink next to orange, next to pink, next to red, next to green. You're just looking at their faces. And that's the black and white, the monochrome image. Every little moment matters. These three couldn't stop taking selfies the whole day long. And again, I know when the bride sees the bride's going to go like, yeah, that's your whole day spent taking selfies because you look so beautiful. And you're obviously hiding the cigarette behind her friend's back because you can't be smoking in the image. And then, a little bit of composition, balancing it out with the vase on the table. Here's that one I mentioned to you before where she had to bite the bracelet off her wrist. This is what was happening around that time. So I know straight away when they look at this, they're going to go like, oh yeah, I remember with the debacle with getting it off the one wrist and onto the other one. This is the back and forth of their story. So we're right at the end, my last 3 frames now. This is a great one to show that layering thing I meant before, where I said foreground, middle ground, and distance. And you can see the hairstylist busy with the bride. You can see in the foreground, she's holding the mirror up. In the big mirror behind her, you can see the details where the stylist's hands are going to correct things and adjust things. And then if you look at the mirror in front of her face. So this is when the mirror shot works, which isn't when it works, it feels so good. You go like, man, there's my story told. Look at this depth, concentration. You can see what's happening. I've got a nice line leading to the left. If you're somebody who can speak eloquently about your composition, you can tell a whole lot about that. But I'm quite happy with how they framed up, just so that I could tell details of in front and behind and in front again that was happening in the frame. So when I started shooting, so now I'm on my last few frames. When I started shooting my documentary style and using prime lenses, especially my 75, I loved that I started seeing things differently. I could walk around and see in frames. And I remember being at a wedding where I saw these 2 the two remaining grandparents, two grandmothers, were the only ones at the wedding. And they went to sit down by themselves. And how do I tell their story? How do I tell the story of these two old ladies sitting by themselves here? Do I try and juxtapose it with the young children playing? Do I try and show something more intimate or moving about it? And I saw this frame and I couldn't believe my luck. And I framed up like this to get these two ladies with two empty chairs where perhaps their husbands could have been. But how dignified the one lady is sitting. The second lady is looking down like it's not. Is she remembering her wedding day? Is she thinking how proud her husband would be to see how their granddaughter turned out? It's just, to me, and once this frame is maybe from just over 2 years ago, and once I got this frame, I stepped back and I went like, this is what I want to be doing. This is how I want to tell a wedding. These are the kind of stories I want to tell. When the couple looks back, there's emotion, there's context, there's a whole history being told here of these two ladies. The ladies even got, the one lady has a cane and the other lady has a crutch, but she's sitting with dignity. She's sitting straight up, taking it all. They're so, it's from another time. And just the fact that, and I didn't move the chairs, I didn't do anything. It was there. And the two white chairs were against a dark background. They stood out like that. I loved that image when I saw it.
It's
and
so
ultimately,
beautiful.
Thank you very much. This is one of my proudest images. And then to come full circle from that very first image we saw with the confetti, with the cell phone on the corner and all that busyness happening. This was from Nick and Charlene's wedding. Bride's getting her shoes put on. The kids are sitting to the side watching TV. The other two kids are digging in the bag to get some snacks. There's the busyness and the madness of what happens at a wedding. And I remember showing this to a very well-known South African wedding photographer. And he said to me, yeah, it's a great shot, but you could have moved the cheese sandwich. And I'm like, no, dude, that's the story. That's what documentary is. The cheese sandwich stays in. This is the story as it looked on the day. That's the story I want to tell.
No, absolutely. I mean, so many things that that you've spoken about today are resonating with me, and I have to say, this has been such an eye opener and an inspiration for me. I don't know. Hopefully, it has been for other people as well. But I mean, there's just so many things that I'm taking out of this that I really, really appreciate. So yeah, thank you.
That's wonderful, Quentin. Look, if people can come away with one thing, yeah, it's that. There's different ways to approach your photography. And what I'd like people to take away from this is I was not this photographer 5 years ago. I was like I would say most generic wedding photographers. But I saw something I wanted to do differently. I invested time in shooting differently. I still watch, like I said, YouTube videos or read books about how other photographers approach it. And what I'd love people to take away from this is that your photography has the ability to change and transform and become meaningful in any way you want it to be. It really can. This is my little story of what I've done in the last 4 odd years to get to this point. And I feel like I'm at the beginning of something which I'm going to enjoy for a very, very, very long time. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
That's an absolute pleasure. I'm just going to put us next to each other over here.
Like, stop. Are we back?
There we go. Yeah, no, we're back. We're back.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I think
Thank you very much.
I think a lot of people got a lot out of it. Certainly from the comments, it was very well received. So if you get a chance, just go and have a look through there. Maybe answer some of the points that were raised. But
absolutely.
A huge thank you so much for coming on board. Like I said, I got a lot out of it. I hope everyone else got a lot out of it. So it's all good.
Yeah. No, look, I genuinely hope so. Look, I told you before we went on, I was very fortunate to learn from people who are generous with their knowledge. And, I find, and I've done presentations and workshops, and people say to me, you can't give away all your secrets. And the thing about documentary photography is no one's going to replicate what you do because it comes down to you as a person. It really does. It's your personality. It's your view on the world. It's how you react in those situations. You will stand next to me and see something that I'll completely miss.
Yeah.
Because it's your eye and your emotion attached to that moment. So I just hope that if people can take some inspiration, and you know what, whatever kind of photography you're doing, you can do so much more with it if you give yourself a chance and believe that your vision counts for something. Believe that the way you see things, whether it's wildlife or architecture or whatever it is, trust your instinct. That's what I've done for 4 years, and I've come somewhere where I'm like, wow, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad I took the chance, because it was a big chance for me to take, and I'm so happy I did, because I thoroughly enjoy photographing weddings now, completely, and 100% all the way. It's the best occasion, the happiest people. It's wonderful to be a part of it. So yeah, if anyone can take anything away from this, is really believe in your vision and trust in what you feel a shot should look like, and you just shoot the way you want to shoot.
I think that's very cool. Very cool. Good advice.
Cool.
So yeah, thank goodness Facebook didn't cut us off. I think we're still,
Okay,
I think we're still live. But yeah, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And maybe we'll get you on again at another time to talk about another part of your photography. So yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'd love to, Quentin. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and you're most welcome. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you very much.
Cool, man. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Hey.
You too. Catch you
Cheers.
later.
Bye.
Cheers, man. Bye.